welcome back to Soul Food. I know you missed me. I missed you too. Haven't been on here for a little while, and but I wanted to stop by today and talk about soul food. Now, soul food is anything that you see, hear, discuss that actually brings faith to your spirit, right? So today, whichever time zone you are in, we are going to be talking about worship. Like, what is worship, right? And this is not a topic that, is widely discussed. I think a lot of people have questions because we usually say praise and worship, and we usually tie those two words together. And I think we got the praise piece down pat, right? I think we are very clear on what that is. But I also wanted to talk about what worship is. And when we get close to the end of the video, I'll actually say why I think worship needs to be explored and understood, right? So I did some Google research. I wanted to see what the world had to say about worship. And so I looked for the meaning via Google. So Google said that worship is a feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity, D-I-D-E-I-T-Y. And this really, and deity meaning, a supernatural being. All right. So, not too bad, from Google, but I also wrote my own explanation or meaning for worship. So for me, worship is a ladder in the spirit, and you can use it to descend to different realms. I promise I won't confuse it tonight. And I promise I will not throw you off either. So worship is a ladder in the spirit, and you can use it to ascend to different dimensions. So the spirit of worship comes with the spirit of prophecy, right? And this is what gives God an opportunity to respond to people when we actually, truly have either been involved in a worship session or we were the ones worshiping our own selves. So I want to take it a little bit slow, just so that you can understand, and we will delve into this a little bit more. So one of the first things I want to say when it comes on to worship is, if God didn't direct it, he will not confirm it. So if God didn't lead your worship session, if he was not a part of what you were doing, then really and truly all you are doing, or all you just did, was to sing songs. God must be Lord of the experience. The Lord must be first, as even if a worship leader is leading worship, God must be first in the hearts of the praise team. God must be first in the hearts of the congregation. So if he didn't lead it, then he will not confirm it. A lot of times we go into worship sessions and, we bust a lot of sweat. And in some instances, we become very emotional because, we are filled with hope and expectation. So I'm going to talk about a few things that, that worship is designed to do, right? Worship is designed to break chains. Worship is designed to deliver. Worship is designed to restore. Worship is designed to heal, make whole. Worship was designed to invoke the presence of God within a particular territory, because this doesn't necessarily have to be a church experience. This could be in your home. This could be in your bedroom. Worship was designed to honor God, right? I'm looking at my notes. Worship was designed for believers to be able to capture a particular dimension of God. So you have the healing dimension, the deliverance. There are multiple dimensions. And so depending on what your needs are when you go into a worship session, those needs can be met just through worshiping. All right, let me put some context around it so that it can be clear. If God decides to expose a particular dimension, let's for argument's sake the healing dimension, if God decides to do that, then in order for him to confirm that dimension, what the Spirit of the Lord does is it beckons to the heart of the person worshiping. So it doesn't have to be the worship leader, it doesn't have to be the worship team, but it is that person that is in the worship session. The Spirit of the Lord will now align himself to the spirit of the worshiper, and it causes them to now sing a particular song according to that dimension that the Lord wants to expose. It could be songs of healing, it could be songs of deliverance, it could be songs of strength, it could be songs of mercy, asking for mercy. Right? Once that is happening, then the atmosphere begins to shift and change. And from that change is where we now realize that things are moving in the atmosphere. Every time we go into a worship center, we put pressure. A worship session, we put pressure on the integrity of God. We put pressure on God to respond to us. Right, the Bible says, let the high praises of God be on their lips, and a double-edged sword in their hand. We're going to take a look at 2 Chronicles 6, looking at verses 40 all the way down to verses 7, and we're going to go from verses 1 to 3. And just looking and giving you some backstory, this is where Solomon was about to dedicate the temple, right? But before this, the altar already had a sacrifice on it. And if you read the story, what you will realize is that after the sacrifice was on the altar and they began to pray, that... Wait, let's fix that. Right? It is 2 Chronicles 6 verses 40, and we go to chapter 7 and we read verses 1 to 3. All right, so I wanted to fix that for you. So like I was mentioning, is that Solomon was about to dedicate the temple, and there was already a sacrifice on the altar. But one of the things that stood out to me was that after the sacrifice was on the altar and the praying began, the fire came. And after the fire came, the Bible said the glory came thereafter. And so one of the things I wanted to understand was, what was that sacrifice? Because we can't put no bull, right? We can't have no animals on the altar anymore. Christ died to solve all of that. But when I looked at Romans 12 verses 1, it kind of helped me to understand what is now needed to cause our worship experience to be fulfilling. So jump over to Romans 12 verses 1, and Paul was speaking here. And he says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. So basically, Paul is saying, is you, is me, we are the sacrifice, right? So the fire of God seeks men and women who have offered their bodies as a living sacrifice. So the first level of worship is not singing, is not playing no instrument, it is not learning how to use a microphone. It is your life being on the altar of God. Yes. And when your life is on the altar, then of course the fire comes. And post the fire, then we will all see and experience that glory that we are looking for, or manifestation. So there's a sequence: the sacrifice, the fire, then the glory. What we typically see today in most worship experience, we find a song, we align the keyboard, we do like a balling, and sometimes we get disappointed because we say nothing never happened, or church never hot, or the worship team can't sing, our church when boring. You know, we try to blame other things. But the truth is, guys, the fire of God is really looking for the sacrifice to be on the altar. Your life, yours and mine, must be the sacrifice. If you come out of a worship session and you are not changed, you did not worship. You never worship. Because you see, wherever there's fire, there is ashes. There is always evidence that God came on the scene. Check it. I explored worship because I wanted to understand why our experiences sometimes are so lull. Why our experiences just seem as though we're beating at a door that is closed and we don't have the key. I wanted to explore because I see people coming in and going out over the years, many different churches, many different experiences with no change. Same old, same old. So when you come out of a true worship session, it is usually undescribable. You are not 100% certain what just happened, but you know something happened that was different. That was more than likely unique. So much so that you want to experience it again. And it doesn't leave you shameful. As a matter of fact, a true worship session leaves you blameless. You feel whole, you feel complete, you feel restored, you feel revived. The truth is, guys, if there is no evidence of the ashes, you will not change. If you didn't burn something, if you didn't lose something, if something didn't come off of you as you participated in worship, you honestly did not do anything different than you did the last time. To fully worship requires surrender. It's a heart posture. It is a place where I allow God to be first in all things.